Om. 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 Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurudeva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Badram Karnebi Shrinuyama Devaha Badram Pashe Makshabhirya Chatraha Stirairangaistushtuvagun Sastadubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayu Swasti na Indro Vridhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarsho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I think we're in our fourth chapter. Is it 85 or 86 that we're on?
86.
86.
Page 440.
Page 440. You help us out?
Yeah. Vipranam vinayo hyesha shama prakrita uchyate dama prakriti dananta vadevam vidvangshamam vrajet. The realization of Brahman is itself the humility natural to the Brahmana. Their mental equipoise is also declared to be spontaneous. They are said to have attained perfect sense control as it comes quite natural to them. He, the wise man, who thus realizes the Brahman, which is all peaceful, himself becomes tranquil and peaceful.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful verse. So, ego, ahankriti, is the first thought that arises after ignorance. What I've been using as an idea lately is that feeling, that jiva bhavana, the feeling that I'm a person, has a quality of spiritual impoverishment. I'm not enough. There's not enough. Then the ego, the mind sets out on the futile task of trying to fix the world or trying to fix me, or to secure myself, or defend myself, or justify myself, or rationalize myself. it's always doomed to failure. Swamiji used to say, the mind is a sewer. I will tell you what the nature of your mind is. You're selfish, you're self-seeking, you're frightened, you're dishonest, you have control issues, you're prone to revenge and redress. Don't worry. I've not said anything about you that isn't the truth about the human condition. Anybody argue with me? Now, you're also generous, kind, giving, loving, caring. You're those things too. So the yogi, of course, in the very beginning, when we're afflicted by an incredibly impure mind, we have to do some healing work. Yoga eventually starts to recommend thought replacement. If the texture of your mind is gloom and doom and life is terrible and people are horrible, yada, 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 you replace it with, I live and move and have my being in thee, O Lord, trustful surrender to God, the universe conspires for my well-being if I let it, etc. Then eventually we start to practice Sakshi Bhava. Get out of the mind, be the witness of the mind. Mind is the mind. And if you're finished with your own mind, then you've got everybody else to deal with. So we want to let go of this idea that the mind will ever change its fundamental nature. It does and it doesn't. But what the mind of the jnani does is it quits believing itself. They're just things that arise. They're not real. They're impermanent. And one of the things that knowledge gives us is the direct experience that no personal sense of self is real. If your ego is telling you, I'm a worm, I'm so terrible, nobody has it as bad as I have, it's an illusion. But the opposite isn't true either. I'm better than anybody else. I'm just a little bit smarter. I'm just a little bit more successful and important. That's not true either. Now, if we're still having attachments to Jiva Bhavana, the attitude that I'm a person, we can begin to use the path itself as a possession. I've been a student of Swami such and such for decades. I've taken this course and that course. I've had the darshan of this Mahatma and that Mahatma. Let me tell you how to do the spiritual life. I'm an expert. Or the most insidious one. Can't you see I'm a realized person? I have the orange robe. I have a jeweled turban now. Swamiji used to say, the longer the beard, the greater your mistrust should be, as he would stroke his very long beard. So, what does knowledge of the self give us? First, I know I'm not a person. I am Brahman. I'm the space of pure awareness. And the mind itself exists as the result of ignorance. If after knowledge the mind continues, meaning you don't drop dead, it's the result of the force of the past. It's karma. So the jnani, the person of wisdom, is so aware of how silly their own mind is, as well as everybody else's, which gives the jnani a natural humility. Unlike the person who's made humility a goal, who keeps checking out, are they noticing I'm humble yet? Nobody is as humble as I am. That's still just another form of ego. The perfect humility comes from seeing the total stupidity of all ego states, all mind states, and the reality of the self. One of my favorite stories, there was a fellow who had been traveling regularly with the Dalai Lama, and another person asked him, what's he like? And the fellow thought for a moment and said, he's always the smallest person in the room. He never has an agenda. He's never protecting or defending self with a small s. It's gone. It's gone. And then, as we were talking about on I can't remember which class it was, this idea of giving up struggle. Now, those of us who've studied Yoga Vasishta, we're familiar with the 7 stages of knowledge, the Saptagyana Bhumikas. These are very famous. And there's a little short book called The Spiritual Teachings of Ramana Maharshi with a foreword by Carl Jung. Did you say you have my copy of it?
I do, yeah.
Yes. Read it or give it back. But in the book, there's a fascinating question. The disciple asks Ramana Maharshi, to which of the 7 stages of knowledge does the jnani belong? And you'd think it would be the final stage, the 7th. And Bhagawan says, the 4th. Now, if you read through the scripture, it says at the 4th stage, knowledge of the self. It's right there. Meaning you either see that you are that ground of being or you don't. It's pretty simple. Then the disciple says, if that be so, then why have three more superior to it been extolled, been listed by the scripture? Very good question. And Bhagawan says, these are not states of bondage or liberation or release. These have to do with the experiences of the realized person. Complete detachment from the world, being in samadhi at all, having no real perception of the world. I mean, they go on. They're beautiful, beautiful descriptions. And he says these post-enlightenment samadhis are not to be achieved by will or effort. They are karmic. They have to do with merits and practices done in many lifetimes. Or we could say in Western terms, they come by grace. And then Bhagawan says, if you're striving to attain these post-enlightenment samadhis, you're not even a jnani yet. Because the mark of the jnani is they've given up struggle. They're at peace. Now, just like we were talking about the other night, Puneet, you're playing your guitar, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Or me, there I am on YouTube looking at recipes. I'm a foodie. But this is not work. This is not struggle. This is play. That's not an impediment. And if play for you involves more spiritual practices, deeper meditations, then you will karmically be led to deeper and deeper samadhi. But you cannot then get caught up in this spiritual materialism where I make those states, oh, I can't wait till I'm like a 6th level Johnny that I'm going to be stopping all the people. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. So equanimity, profound peace, the Paramashanti, the cessation of struggle, this effortless knowledge of my own self nature. It's the mark of the jnani. Now, antithetically, way on the other end of these post-enlightenment samadhis, there are those third-class jnanis, they're called, both in Yoga Vasishtha and Tripura Rahasya, who know their essential nature, but there's still the very strong impression that they're the doer and the enjoyer. So they have moments of ignorance and moments of knowledge. I call it the yo-yo state. Sometimes I'm clear, sometimes I'm identify. Sometimes I'm clear, sometimes I'm identified. When we're identified, we suffer like any other ordinary person. But then your knowledge returns. How could I have been so deluded? I got so identified. Oh, yeah, I remember who I am. And that may be the best we achieve this lifetime for some of us. The way I look at it, if you're still disturbed, if you're still identified, keep doing Viveka Vairagya, discriminate, practice dispassion. If your wisdom is steady, and to some degree your mind has retired into the self, each person works this out for themselves. Only you can determine whether continued deep absorption is play or the struggle of ego. Is that useful?
Yes.
This is very advanced teaching. And always, what this text is thundering, all of that is in the world of Maya. The self never gets realized. The self is already realized. How do you know you were you? You already have that. But the great cosmic joke is everybody already has it. All right, next verse.
सवस्तु सोपलब्धं च द्वयं लौकिकमिष्यते अवस्तु सोपलब्धं च शुद्धं लौकिकमिष्यते. Vedanta recognizes the empirical state of waking in which the plurality made up of the contacts with the objects and ideas is known. It further recognizes another subtle state in which it is experienced a plurality wherein the ideas come in contact with the objects which do not really exist.
So, what's the difference between the ordinary person and the jnani who's in sahaja samadhi? The difference is for the ordinary person, their sense organs make contact with the sense objects, and in the mind, they think it's real. But for the jnani, their sense organs make contact with the sense objects, but their deep knowledge is Jagan Mitya, the phenomenal world. All objective phenomena, without exception, is unreal. Years ago, there was a Ramses II exhibit at the De Young Museum. Did any of you go to see that? Yes, no?
No.
It was very cool. And in one section, they had virtual reality. So you went in and you sat in this pod and it could tip and stuff like that. While you were waiting in line, you could see other people in them and it's tipping and rotating and stuff like that. So you get in and they put the virtual reality glasses on and the headphones and they strap you in. The next thing you know, there you are in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. And there this lady was supposed to be one of the Pharaoh's daughters or something. Maybe she was a goddess. I can't remember anymore now. But the cool thing is, they took you down into the tomb and you could look up and see the roof. You could see the walls on every side. You could look down. Any of you been in virtual reality? It's very cool. And then, when you would go up and down, they tilt the pod. So, it was very, very realistic. It was so realistic, but it wasn't real. This is no different. When you're in the pod for 10 minutes, you know you're not really in the tomb of Ramses II. Coolest part, there was smell-o-vision. So I'm not making this up. You'd see these big, huge tripods with bowls on the top, and there were coals in it, and they were burning incense. And then out of the sides of the pod, they went, psh, you smell the fragrance. Very cool. Seen, but not real. Seen, but not real. And I love what Tejo Mayananda says. The foolish person does not take life seriously. The intelligent person takes life seriously. But the wise person seriously doesn't take life seriously. Take it easy. Next verse.
Avastvanu च लोकोत्तरम् इति स्मृतं ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं न विज्ञेयं सदा बुद्धै प्रकीर्तितम्. There is yet another state of consciousness admitted by the wise, which is free from contact with external objects and also free from the inner thought forms. This state is beyond all empirical experiences. The men of wisdom always describe the three: the knowledge, the objects of knowledge, and the knowable as the supreme reality.
So he's making reference to the deepest samadhis. Samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, is like deep sleep in that there is no ego, no sense perception, no objects of the senses available. But in deep sleep, there's still the vritti of pure ignorance. And in nirvikalpa, even that is gone. And only the prakash, the light of pure awareness, remains. Now, technically speaking, any moment when the mind is free from deliberation, vimarsha, that's samadhi. So we have fleeting samadhis frequently. And for the yogi who's attentive, it doesn't have to be, oh, Sage David was lost in samadhi for 12 years, Kali was in samadhi for 10,000 years, It doesn't have to be like that. And a single pointed mind is as good as no mind. A thinning of the mind will reveal the truth. I don't have many more, but years ago I had lace curtains in the dining room. And people from the outside couldn't see into my dining room, but I could stand in my dining room and look out through the lace curtains and see what's going on the patio. That's like the thinness of mind. Tanu manasaha. It almost doesn't even need to be completely gone, just thinned enough for us to see what he is. And frequently, when that happens, the mind just goes, all that's left is a hum, no thought at all. But again, we cannot make these mind states more desirable objects. Tune up the mind. Remember who you are. If you can, taste the bliss of your own self-nature. We had this term from Vidyaranya in the last Monday class. Brahmananda rasa swa. Swa means taste. Rasa is juice. Taste the juice of the bliss of Brahman. Why is this valuable? Remember, we talk about the ruthless rule of the mind. The mind will return to the experience that's given it the greatest joy. And I usually follow that up with, thank God, God's the most beloved, or we'd all be screwed. If you can't taste the juice of the bliss of Brahman, there's no help for it. Your mind's going to extrovert into the world. So once that becomes facile, it's always there. Then the scriptures say, now renounce the bliss of samadhi. You can't be attached to it. It too is a mind state, man. Enjoy. Let it go. And one of the things that we learned with Swamiji, see, Swamiji would show up for 10 days, 2 weeks, sometimes a month or longer at Krishnalaya. So you'd spend this time with him and you get so blissed out. Then he'd leave. We were left on our own. So we had to have our own purushartha, our own self-effort to get rooted and established in this. All right, next verse.
John, I have a question.
Yes.
So if the states of bliss come and go, so what is the sort of ultimate goal of just equanimity?
The ultimate goal, self-realization gives us two things. The first I call existential freedom. When you know you're not the body, you know you're not the person, then all of the fear that comes because of that is gone. We're not afraid of death. We're not afraid of what's happening in the society. There's so much fear and anger in our body politic right now. And all of it is based in ignorance. It's going to be okay. So that deep, deep peace that I'm safe is the first thing. Second thing, now I know where happiness is. Happiness is the mind tasting the bliss of my own self nature. It's not in the world. The world isn't bad. It's just void. Even when I get happiness in the world, all it really is a taste of myself. Is that useful?
Thank you.
All right, next verse.
ज्ञाने च त्रिविधे ज्ञेये क्रमेण विदिते स्वयं सर्वज्ञाता हि सर्वत्र भवतीह महाधियः. When knowledge and the threefold knowables are known one after another in their correct sequence, he who is possessed of the highest reason spontaneously attains to the state of knowledge everywhere and in all things in this very life.
So the very highest yogis attain moksha at the very hearing of this knowledge. The three states, waking, dream, and deep sleep, and the turiya, the fourth, which is the substratum, the ground in which the three states rise and fall. And in samadhi, they go bye-bye. Then the mind returns. Nothing touches me. But for those of us of middling intellect, control of the mind may be necessary, at least in the beginning. Going on.
ज्ञेयाप्यपाक्यानि विज्ञेयान्यग्रण्याणतः तेषाम् अन्यत्र विज्ञेयात् उपलम्भस्त्रेषु स्मृतः. The four things to be known in the very beginning are: 1. The things to be avoided; 2. The object to be realized; 3. Things to be attained or accepted; and 4. Thoughts to be rendered ineffective. Among these four, all the rest, excepting what is to be realized, in other words, Brahman, exist only as imaginations.
Yes. So all our sadhana, whatever tradition you're practicing, in the end, are just imagination. This is why at the end of so many of the scriptures, when the Shisha, the disciple, gets realized, there'll be verses like, the Shisha isn't real, the Guru isn't real, the scripture isn't real, my bondage isn't real, my liberation isn't real. Only Brahman is real. The peace comes from knowing all objective phenomena, gross and subtle, is unreal. But, and it's another big but, if we're ego identified and I think I'm the body, and my ego state is the mumukshu, the seeker after liberation, the jinyasu, the seeker of enlightenment, by all means, do the various practices because they purify the mind until we get chitta shuddhi, purity of mind, in which we realize the self as Sat Chit Ananda, pure existence, consciousness, and bliss absolute. And then the fruit of that realization, I see the whole thing was like a dream. It's a paradox. And again, if you're just a scholar or you think it's figure outable, read the tail end of the 4th chapter. Sadhana is not real. Okay, so I won't meditate. I won't do practices. Moral precepts aren't real. Then I think I'll just be a jerk. Behavior doesn't matter. Well, I really do feel better when I smoke crack. Then all you're doing is rationalizing your suffering. That's not freedom. It's paradoxical. Going on.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, so there are two things that you sometimes say, right? You'll say rest the mind in the self, and you'll also say be the self. And I know that technically they're the same thing, like they're just words, but one of them implies a subtle duality, right? There's a mind and there's the self, and one of them is just one. I find that the first one, there's effort, right? And the second one is the goal because there is no effort. And yet every time the second one slips, and the first one doesn't. Does that make sense?
Yes, but there's a bit of an error here. The self doesn't do sadhana.
Yes.
The self doesn't do anything.
Yes.
Spiritual practice, spiritual realization only occurs to the mind.
Yes.
So nobody's self has any problem.
Yes.
So you have a friend who's suffering badly. Their self is just fine.
Yes.
So to say, oh, don't worry, your misery is unreal. You are already perfect.
Yes.
That's like saying there's a hurricane going through, but don't worry, the sun is still shining in space.
Yes.
Making sense?
Yes.
So, what is a realized mind? What is a freed personality? It happens to a person whose mind knows who they are. And that
Yes.
doesn't affect the self. Moksha happens to the mind, not the self.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
for the realized soul at the time of death, what the scriptures say, the body goes back to the gross elements. The subtle body goes back to the subtle elements. There's nothing left, but Brahman is still there. Brahman went nowhere.
Mm.
What's the difference between Ramana Maharshi and some miserable creature? The self in them is just exactly the same. It's their minds. Does that make it clearer?
So, I mean, I think if I were to extend what you just said, it's that it's the mind that has to rest in the self until there is no mind. I don't know.
Well, and there is no mind that's real in the end.
Yes.
Just like your dream is not real.
Yeah.
But the point is that doesn't mean the phenomenal world ceases to appear.
Yes. Yeah, and it almost seems like a cop out, right? Because if you're really practicing a lot and you just kind of want to be lazy, you're like, you know what? There is no mind and I'm the self. But like,
That's the great, what
Yeah.
I call the Vedanta logic loop.
yeah,
That's the teaching you're getting now is
Mhm.
not for beginner or intermediate students
yeah,
for exactly that reason.
yeah,
So that's why I love the axiom. It's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha. If you're not disturbed, you're fine. But if you're disturbed, just saying it's not real, it's not real, it's not real, may not be too helpful.
yeah, yeah. Or maybe it is alternating between the two. Like sometimes you don't need, and sometimes you do. Like sometimes you don't need to rest the mind and the self, and sometimes you do, I guess.
Everybody works this out for themselves.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but don't get too hung up. All the sayings in the scriptures at best point.
Mm.
And it's the whole path is filled with paradox. You know, you go to Vivekachudamani, I just love this book. In the very beginning, Shankara goes on and says, the glories of a human bird. Huh? That's completely contradicted by what we've been saying. This is the capacity to be a mumukshu, to have the courage and the strength to do yoga, is only achieved after thousands of lives lived intelligently. Huh? Shankara's talking about reincarnation? I'm not making this up. Read the scripture. And yet all of that is contradicted by the very end of the book. So it all depends on where we are in our spiritual unfoldment. And the beauty of the teaching is it gives us effective practice wherever we are. And in the end, the person who is the seeker after peace is herself, a dreamlike apparition. Is that helpful?
Yes, I think I'll think about it some more because I find that I alternate between the two. I know exactly what the first one is, and then when I try to like drop the mind or the seeker, then it doesn't work. I suffer again. So yeah. But I'll think about it.
We'll
Maybe.
talk more. We can talk more offline on it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, going on. Next verse.
प्रकृत्याकाशवज्ञेयाः सर्वे धर्मा अनादयः विद्यते न हि नानात्वं तेषां क्वचन किञ्चन. All entities are by their very nature beginningless and unattached, like the space. There is not the slightest variety, plurality in them in any way at any time.
Yes. So, what's the difference between bowl space, cup space, water glass space? Is there any difference?
Nope.
The containers are different, but the space is the same. What is the difference in the self of Saundarya, Mali, Deva, Ramana Maharshi? Nothing. And the upadis, the equipment, though seen, are dream-like appearances constructed out of imagination. Next one. Which one are we on now? What number?
92.
Okay.
Adibuddha prakratyaiva sarve dharmasu nishritaah yasyaivam bhavati kshanti somritattvaya kalpate. All egocentric entities are, by their very nature, illumined from the very beginning, and they are ever immutable in their nature. He who with this knowledge rests without seeking further knowledge is alone capable of realizing the highest truth.
Yes. So, what is the real knowledge? Remember our definition of reality with a capital R? That which is never subject to negation. What knowledge is it, knowing which is never lost? What knowledge is it that is perfect, still, unchanging? It is the self-evidence of the self. How do you know you are you? Who sees the coffee cup? Like, that's yourself. You don't get another self. My only problem has been I've got stupid ideas about it. Investigate it. Think, when are you ever not you? I'm always me. I have no experience of not being me. What's my nature? Still the mind, introvert the attention, and look, there's nothing there. Yet it shines as pure awareness. I'm full of me, of being, of Baba. Fundamentally different than any ego state. And what he's saying here is everybody already knows it. Everybody already has it. This is why the great 20th century sage Meher Baba used to say, everybody's already realized. Don't worry, be happy. The only real knowledge, the perfect knowledge, is the self-evidence of the self. And the great cosmic joke is everybody already has it. It's just my stupid mind. That's the only problem. What does the stupid mind need to do? Reflect on the direct experience of I-ing. Investigate it. What do I see when I investigate? I have no beginning. I do not change. I do not end. I do not die when the body dies. What causes me to get so confused and deluded? Sangraha, attachment. Raga, passion for stuff. Dvesha, aversion. Ahankriti, my mind making up ideas of self. Yeah, they're illusory. But I love what Shankara says. He says, we can't say that Maya exists. We can't say it doesn't exist. But we can certainly say that it is powerful. Next verse.
वैशारध्यं तु वै नास्ति भेदे विचरतां सदा भेदन्मिन्ना पृथग्वाद astasmate kripana smritaः. Those who always rely on the concept of separativeness can never realize the inborn natural purity of the self. Therefore, those who are enmeshed in the idea of plurality and those who assert the separativeness of individual things and egos are called unfortunate or narrow-minded.
Wait, I think you missed one.
Oh, did I?
No, you-
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Adishanta ह्यनुत्पन्ना प्रकृत्यैव सुनिर्वृताः सर्वे धर्मा समाभिन्ना ajam samyam visharadam. All egocentric entities are from the very beginning and by their very nature all the same, unborn and completely free. They are characterized by sameness and are non-separate from one another. Therefore, the separate entities are in reality nothing but Atman, unborn, always established in sameness and purity.
So all the bodies are somewhat different, but they are jada, inert. They're always known. They are not inherently sentient. All minds have all sorts of differences. But my feelings, memories, reactions are themselves inert. One feeling doesn't know another feeling. All the thoughts are inherently jada, inert. One thought doesn't know another thought. That's the world of differences. But what is conscious? What is sentient? What has bhava, being? I do. What is my nature? Satchidananda Rupaham. My nature is pure existence, pure consciousness, and bliss absolute. And that's the same as everybody else. The self in me is not like the self in you. The self in me is the self in you. Wonderful practice. Look people straight in the eye. Know that there's a conscious being looking out of those eyes. Who is that conscious being? My very self. The self. Next verse.
Should I just do the English for the next one, since I read it already?
I don't care.
Those who always rely on the concept of separativeness can never realize the inborn natural purity of the self. Therefore, those who are enmeshed in the idea of plurality and those who assert the separativeness of individual things and egos are called unfortunate or narrow-minded.
So if I take what we call the karma kanda teaching, and I'm caught up in past lives or dietary purity or I'm going to raise my kundalini, or I'm going to worship this deity, and you're stupid because you worship that deity. Long as we're caught up in I and other. As long as I think I'm a person, there's no hope of peace. Going on.
अजय सम्ये तु ये केचिद् भविष्यन्ति सुनिश्चिताः ते हि लोके महाज्ञानात् तच्च लोको न गाह्यते. In this world, they alone are said to be of the highest wisdom, who are firm in their conviction of the self, which is unborn and ever the same. Ordinary men cannot understand that reality.
Yes. And it's amazing how the ego will fight this truth. Because in order to realize it, we have to let go of our attachment, our investment to everything we've ever held as sacred or important. All of it has to be. Doesn't mean to run away from the world. The Master Jesus said it so eloquently. I'm in the world, but not of it. My kingdom is not of this world. Next verse.
अजेष्व जमसङ्क्रान्तं धर्मेषु ज्ञानमिष्यते यतो न क्रमते ज्ञानं सङ्गं तेन कीर्तितम्. Pure consciousness, the essence of the separate entities, jivas, is admitted to be itself unborn and unrelated to any of the external objects. This knowledge is proclaimed to be unconditioned as it is not in any way related to any other objects.
So here he's talking about what Gita calls asparsha yoga. Asparsha means untouched. Yoga means joined. Swamiji is his poetry would say the touch of the untouched. So it is because of me, the very life principle. The body moves, the mind feels, the intellect thinks, the stars shine, the galaxies spin, the worm crawls. But I am never touched by it. The mirror is always there, causing, as it were, the various reflections in it. But the mirror is never touched by the reflections in it. You are always safe. You are always without any taint. Don't believe me? Look. Next one.
अणुमात्रेऽपि वै धर्म्ये जायमाने विपश्चितः असङ्गता सदा नास्ति किमुतावरण उच्यतिः. The slightest idea of plurality in Atman, entertained by the ignorant, walls them off from their approach to the unconditioned. When then is the destruction of the veil covering the real nature of the Atman?
So, anytime the thought of a personal sense of self arises, renounce it. When a personal sense of self arises, it is always accompanied by struggle. Let it go. Be diligent. Next one.
फलद्धावरणा सर्वे धर्मा प्रकृति निर्मलाः आदौ बुद्धास्तथा मुक्ता बुद्ध्यन्त इति नायकाः. All jivas are ever free from bondage and pure by nature. They are ever illumined and liberated from the very beginning. Still, the wise speak of the individuals as capable of knowing the selfhood.
So everybody's already free. So what happens? Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. There is no other bondage than the deeply rooted conviction that I'm bound, which expresses itself as I think I'm my body. I think I'm a person. There is no other liberation than the deeply rooted conviction in the mind, based on direct experience. Not that I am a liberated person, but I know I am Brahman and always have been. How could I have been so deluded? And neither state touches the self. Next one.
Kramate nahi buddhasya jnanam dharmeshu tayanah sarve dharmastatha jnanam naitad buddhena bhasishitam. The knowledge of the realized one, who is all wisdom, is ever untouched by objects. Similarly, all the entities as well as knowledge are also ever untouched by any object. This is not the view of the Buddha.
Okay, so in the end, the man or woman of steady wisdom doesn't put any real weight into their own mind or anybody else's. The only real knowledge is the swayambhu, the self-evidence of the self, the self-effulgence, swayam jyoti of the self. This is not the teaching of the Buddha, he says. This is polemical. And he's speaking specifically of what we call the Shunyavadins. That means the scholiasts of the void, who say self is dependently originating with the perception of objects. It is not only always changing, but ultimate reality is shunyata, void. There is nothing real. And what Gaudapada is saying is, nice idea, but completely unverifiable. Do you exist? No, I don't exist. I've had the experience that I don't exist. So you disappeared. Yes, I disappeared. And how did you know you disappeared? Think. Do you see the phone in my hand? Yes. Do you see there's no phone in my hand? Yes. If something goes away and you know something has gone away, someone still must be there to know it. All right, is that the last one? Is there one more?
One more and then one concluding verse.
Okay.
Dadarsham tigam bhiram majam samyam visharadam Buddhva Padamanatnatvam Namaskurmo Yathabalam. Having realized that state of supreme reality, which is extremely difficult to be grasped in its profound nature, unborn, ever the same, pure all knowledge, and free from plurality, we salute it as best as we can.
Yes. So we salute it, be it. And then, as Swamiji always would say, revise the scripture, revise it, review it. Going on. And there's one concluding verse.
Yeah. Asangoham, asangoham, asangoham punah punaha, Satchidananda rupoham, ahameva avavyayaha. Unattached, unattached, unattached am I, again and again, of nature, absolute existence, knowledge, bliss.
Yes.
Am I am, that alone I am, the eternal, the immortal, the imperishable.
And that's actually not part of the Karika. That's, I think, from Brahmagyana Valley, which is so beautiful that he's put there at the end. So, as we always do, because we never finish the study of an Upanishad, if you turn to verse 1, chapter 1, let's do the first verse again.
Omitye tadaksharam idam sarvam tasyopyavakyanam bhutam bhavat bhavishyaditi sarvam omkara eva yat chanyat trikala titam tadpyokara eva. Om, the word, is all this. A clear explanation of it is the following. All that is past, present, and future verily is Om. That which is beyond the three periods of time is also indeed Om.
There again. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Namaha. Hari Om.